Hello everyone, welcome to back my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Charlotte Flair is a highly decorated, multi-time WWE champion who has dominated the women's division since her 2015 main roster debut. Despite her spot as one of the industry's top performers, her booking has made her one of the company's most polarizing stars. Tiffany Stratton even said that the Queen pours water on the rising fire of any newer star. Many fans are worried that Flair will once again beat a promising up-and-coming performer at WrestleMania 41. Some love the continuation of her father's gimmick and her athleticism. Others, however, are tired of her constant pushes in the title picture. Flair may be one of the greatest women in WWE history, but the following 5 feuds disappointed many fans. One of Flair's earliest feuds was also one of the most maddening. She beat both Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks in a triple threat match at WrestleMania 32. After a few wins over Natalya, Flair engaged in a feud with Banks for the rest of 2016. In all, the title changed hands 6 times between July 25 and December 18, fast-tracking Flair toward her father's record of 16 world championships. It was also unevenly booked, as each time Sasha Banks won, the match occurred on RAW. When Flair regained the belt, it was at a PLE like SummerSlam or Hell in a Cell. Having so many swaps in 6 months greatly devalued the title simply to prop up the Queen's number of championship victories. By the time the first ever Women's Royal Rumble came around in 2018, Flair's constant presence in the title scene was already an issue. Asuka came off a dominant 500-plus day run as NXT Women's Champion and was never pinned. The Empress of Tomorrow joined Raw and won the Rumble. She opted to challenge Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania 34. Instead of creating a new force in the women's division, Flair simply defeated Asuka at WrestleMania with a lackluster build-up. Mr. McMahon was still in charge of WWE at the time and didn't regard anything happening in NXT as important. The decision only propped Flair up even more while ending a run that could have helped someone else. Since WWE always booked Flair in the title picture, they were in a strange spot in 2020 when she was booked to win the Royal Rumble. Becky Lynch and Bayley were the champions at the time, and Flair had feuded with both numerous times. Bookers went an alternate route to have the Queen challenge NXT Women's Champion Rhea Ripley. Some fans thought that this would finally be the time when Flair would lose to a hyped-up-and-comer, but again, it didn't happen. Despite the quality of the matches, Flair beat Ripley and had an uneventful run as NXT Women's Champion. As if it wasn't bad enough, the Queen dropped the title a few months later in another triple threat, but Io Sky pinned Ripley. Flair was feuding again with Ripley, the Raw Women's Champion at the time in 2021. History repeated itself needlessly yet again when she bested the Eradicator for the title at the Money in the Bank. PLE Nikki Ash won the women's case on the same night and cashed in on Flair on Raw 2 days after Money in the Bank. The cash-in led to a triple threat match at SummerSlam. This situation felt like an excuse for Flair and Ripley to challenge for the title without either getting pinned. It also felt like a rush to get rid of the briefcase. However, a quick turnaround has plagued the women's Money in the Bank case, with 5 winners cashing in within 2 days of claiming the contract. After a run as NXT UK Women's Champion, Toni Storm briefly moved stateside to work in Florida. She was quickly promoted to SmackDown, where she started what would be the last feud of her WWE career. The Queen, as she always does, hurt the credibility of a new star by not taking her seriously. Things went even further when Flair hit Storm in the face with not 1 but 2 pies laid out for Thanksgiving. The humiliating exchange led Storm to ask for her release, and the rest is history. Perhaps it was a blessing in disguise for the Timeless One, but at the time it was another disappointing instance of Flair burying the WWE opponent. Charlotte Flair, the daughter of WWE Hall of Famer Ric Flair, has long been one of the most prominent and decorated female wrestlers in WWE history. With her impressive list of accolades, including multiple Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships, it's no surprise that she's been at the center of many high-profile feuds throughout her career. However, not all of her storylines have been met with the same level of excitement and satisfaction from the WWE Universe. While Charlotte's in-ring abilities and athleticism are top-notch, several of her rivalries have fallen flat, leaving fans disappointed. These feuds, for various reasons, didn't live up to their potential or expectations, and instead left the audience questioning what could have been. In this article, we will explore 5 Charlotte Flair feuds that ended up disappointing the fans, analyzing the factors that led to their lackluster reception. 1. Charlotte Flair vs. Bayley, 2016 to 2017. Bayley, the ultimate underdog and fan favorite, had long been adored by the WWE Universe. When she made her way from NXT to the main roster, many fans were excited to see her rise through the ranks. At the same time, Charlotte Flair was positioned as one of the top heels in the company. A rivalry between the two seemed like a perfect match, but it ended up being a major disappointment. The build-up. The feud between Charlotte and Bayley began in 2016 when Bayley made her main roster debut on Monday Night Raw. Charlotte at the time was the Raw Women's Champion, and it seemed natural that Bayley would challenge her for the title. WWE tried to position Bayley as the hopeful, all-American babyface, while Charlotte embodied the arrogant, dominant heel role, much like her father, Ric Flair. Initially, the rivalry had potential. Bayley was over with the fans, and Charlotte was on top of her game, cutting fiery promos and delivering solid matches. However, things began to fall apart during the build-up to their championship match at the 2017 Royal Rumble. The problem: while the match itself at the Royal Rumble wasn't terrible, the feud's overall execution was lackluster. One of the most glaring issues was the lack of clear motivation. Charlotte, as champion, was already being portrayed as a dominant heel, but Bayley's underdog story just didn't resonate the way it did in NXT. Her rise to the top felt rushed, and the feud felt more like filler than a long-term, compelling rivalry. The feud lacked significant personal stakes or a memorable storyline that could elevate Bayley beyond just a happy-go-lucky fan favorite. Further complicating the feud was the over-reliance on gimmick matches, like the Hell in a Cell match at WWE Hell in a Cell 2017. Instead of making the feud feel personal and organic, WWE resorted to artificial match types to try to add intrigue. This ultimately led to a disjointed narrative, with Charlotte and Bayley being locked in a series of forgettable encounters that ultimately didn't capture the attention of the fans. The outcome: Charlotte would go on to defeat Bayley at Fastlane 2017, but the feud fizzled out after that. Bayley's booking never truly felt impactful, and Charlotte didn't seem to have much to gain from the feud. After the rivalry concluded, it felt like a missed opportunity to elevate Bayley into the upper echelon of WWE's women's division. Instead of giving her the emotional arc that would have solidified her as a top babyface, WWE seemed to sideline Bayley, and the feud ended on a whimper rather than a bang. 2. Charlotte Flair vs. Ronda Rousey, 2018 to 2019. In 2018, WWE shocked the world by announcing that Ronda Rousey, the former UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion, was coming to the company. Rousey's arrival generated a lot of excitement, and her first major feud came against Charlotte Flair. It seemed like a dream match in the making. The baddest woman on the planet versus the most decorated female wrestler of her generation. Yet, despite the star power involved, the feud failed to live up to expectations. The build-up. The build-up to Charlotte vs. Ronda was filled with anticipation. Ronda had made an impressive debut at WrestleMania 34, where she teamed with Kurt Angle to take on Triple H and Stephanie McMahon in a mixed tag team match. By 2018, Ronda had firmly cemented herself as a major WWE star, and it only made sense for her to challenge for the Raw Women's Championship. Charlotte, on the other hand, had just made history by winning the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania 34, and her reputation as one of WWE's most dominant women was well established. The feud seemed like it had the potential for a memorable, hard-hitting rivalry, especially given Ronda's background in combat sports. However, WWE didn't fully capitalize on this opportunity. Ronda and Charlotte had some decent matches, but their feud was often overshadowed by the chaos surrounding the Becky Lynch storyline. WWE inserted Becky Lynch into the mix, turning what was supposed to be a one-on-one championship bout into a triple threat match at WrestleMania 35, with the build to the match focused more on Lynch than on the actual rivalry between Charlotte and Ronda. The problem. The biggest issue with the Charlotte-Ronda feud was that it became overshadowed by external circumstances. While Ronda was heavily promoted as WWE's newest superstar, and Charlotte's heel persona was getting more refined, it was clear that WWE's main priority was to push Becky Lynch as the face of the women's division. Charlotte and Ronda were reduced to supporting players in a storyline that, while important, didn't allow them to shine on their own. Even in their WrestleMania 35 match, the stakes were muddled by the added complication of Becky Lynch's rise. While the triple threat match was a historic and entertaining contest, the focus was always on Becky, and both Charlotte and Ronda's contributions to the match were overshadowed. Their feud, while having potential, never truly reached the heights that fans had hoped for, and instead it felt more like an afterthought to the larger narrative. The outcome: after WrestleMania 35, Ronda would leave WWE for a while, and Charlotte's role in the division would continue to evolve. The feud with Ronda, unfortunately, didn't have the payoff that many fans hoped for, leaving a sense of missed opportunity. The lack of clarity in the storylines and the overshadowing of the rivalry by Becky Lynch's rise led to a feud that didn't resonate as strongly as it could have. 3. Charlotte Flair vs. Sasha Banks, 2015 to 2016. Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks were two of the most talented women in WWE when they were called up to the main roster in 2015. Their rivalry, especially in the context of the Divas Revolution, seemed like it could have been an all-time classic. However, despite their exceptional chemistry and incredible match quality, their feud ultimately fell short in terms of long-term storytelling. The build-up. The feud between Charlotte and Sasha began when both women made their main roster debuts, alongside Becky Lynch, as part of the Divas Revolution. Sasha Banks was already establishing herself as the top heel in the division, while Charlotte was quickly positioned as the babyface in the feud. Their first major match took place at the 2015 Night of Champions, where Charlotte defeated Nikki Bella for the Divas Championship. Sasha, as a member of Team Bad, alongside Naomi and Tamina, would begin to feud with Charlotte over the title. The early stages of their rivalry had all the makings of something special. Sasha was an exceptional heel, Charlotte had the lineage and credibility, and both women were capable of putting on five-star matches. Their bouts, including the Raw main event matches, were highly anticipated, and the in-ring action often exceeded expectations. The problem: despite their excellent matches, the story behind their feud lacked focus and depth. WWE's attempt to sell the rivalry as part of the Divas Revolution felt rushed and underdeveloped. The spotlight on their matches often wasn't as bright as it could have been, as WWE still relied heavily on the Divas branding, even though both Charlotte and Sasha were clearly capable of delivering matches that transcended that label. In addition, the feud suffered from inconsistency in terms of character development. Charlotte's turn as a heel in late 2015 was forced and lacked the organic feeling of her eventual evolution as a dominant figure. Meanwhile, Sasha's role as a top-tier heel was sometimes diluted by the focus on other wrestlers in the storyline, particularly Paige and Becky Lynch. The result was a feud that often felt as though it lacked a cohesive narrative, despite the presence of two of the best in-ring workers in WWE. The outcome: the Charlotte-Sasha feud, despite delivering some of the most technically proficient matches in WWE's women's division, failed to create lasting drama or impact. The matches were incredible, but the lack of a gripping storyline ultimately left fans with a sense of something missing. They moved on to other rivalries, and the feud between Charlotte and Sasha never quite reached the level of iconic WWE rivalries. 4. Charlotte Flair vs. Nia Jax, 2017 to 2018. Nia Jax, known for her imposing size and power, has had a mixed career in WWE. Her rivalry with Charlotte Flair was built around the contrast in their physiques and fighting styles, but it ultimately didn't resonate with fans as strongly as it could have. The build-up. Nia Jax began to assert herself as a contender for Charlotte's Raw Women's Championship in 2017. The story was framed around the idea of Charlotte being the queen of the division, while Nia, with her brute strength and dominance, would try to dethrone her. Their rivalry was based on a clash of styles, but it never felt particularly engaging. The build-up was hampered by the lack of personal stakes, and the matches were seen as filler material rather than must-watch contests. The problem: despite the clash of styles between Charlotte and Nia, the feud lacked a personal edge. Nia's heel persona often came off as forced and didn't create the kind of emotional investment needed to make the feud feel important. Meanwhile, Charlotte's dominance as a champion left little room for fans to believe Nia could truly dethrone her. As a result, the matches often felt predictable, and the rivalry didn't elevate either performer. The outcome: the feud between Charlotte and Nia Jax ultimately fizzled out. Both women went on to have more prominent rivalries, but the storyline failed to make a lasting impact on either character's development. The lack of a compelling narrative and the underwhelming build-up left this rivalry as one of the more forgettable moments of Charlotte's career. 5. Charlotte Flair vs. Asuka, 2018. Asuka, the undefeated juggernaut from NXT, was being positioned as an unstoppable force heading into WrestleMania 34. Her undefeated streak made her seem invincible, and many fans expected her to walk into WrestleMania and defeat Charlotte Flair to claim the SmackDown Women's Championship. However, the way the feud was handled left many fans disappointed. The build-up. The build-up to Charlotte vs. Asuka was centered around Asuka's undefeated streak, which made her seem like the perfect challenger to Charlotte's reign. Charlotte, meanwhile, was positioned as a top champion, and her promo work in the lead-up to the match was solid. The rivalry was built on the idea that Asuka was a force of nature, but Charlotte had the tools and the legacy to beat her. This dynamic had all the potential for an epic match. The problem: the biggest issue with this feud was the way it was handled at WrestleMania 34. Asuka's undefeated streak, which had been built up for years, was ended abruptly by Charlotte, who went on to win the match. While Charlotte's victory was seen as a big moment, many fans were upset by the way Asuka was treated. The loss took away from Asuka's mystique, and many felt that Charlotte's victory was more about protecting her character than making Asuka look strong. The outcome: the fallout from this feud left a bad taste in fans' mouths. While Charlotte's win was historic, the feud felt rushed, and the payoff wasn't as satisfying as it could have been. Asuka's streak was a huge part of her character, and losing it in a high-profile match like this didn't allow her to recover quickly. The rivalry ended up feeling like a missed opportunity, and both Charlotte and Asuka moved on to other feuds without the depth that this one could have provided. Conclusion: Charlotte Flair's career has been filled with memorable moments, but not all of her feuds have lived up to expectations. Whether due to poor booking, overshadowing circumstances, or simply lackluster storytelling, these 5 rivalries stand out as disappointments. Despite her immense talent and legacy, Charlotte has had some rivalries that never fully captured the imagination of the WWE Universe, leaving fans wanting more. Nevertheless, her future in WWE remains bright, and there will undoubtedly be more high-profile feuds that will captivate audiences. Thanks for watching this video, and please subscribe our WWE official YouTube channel for more update news.